with that being said, let's segue into this Arizona Cardinals matchup. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner, and the Arizona Cardinals are coming to Miami to play the Miami Dolphins in Hard Rock Stadium.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to give you my initial thoughts on this, Anthony, real quick, because this is not a game where I feel like the Dolphins match up super well against the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals, they are a good running team, especially with James Conner. James Conner is a beast. He's a bear to bring down. He's one of those old school type of running backs, one of those, Franco Harris type of running backs that, not super fast, but he's physical. He'll run over you. He'll run through you. He'll run through arm tackles. And the Dolphins defense is not the biggest of defenses. So that in and of itself is a point for the Arizona Cardinals in this matchup. So tell me, offensively, I think the Dolphins match up well against the Arizona Cardinals. I think if Tua is, call it 70% of what he, of what he can be, the Dolphins are going to put up points against this Arizona Cardinals defense. But how do you feel the Dolphins defense matches up against the Arizona Cardinals offense?
I think the one weak point is exactly what you said, James Conner. I think that we have the big-bodied corner in Jalen Ramsey that can make Marvin Harrison look silly. And he's been doing a plenty of good job of making himself look silly because he hasn't
looked good at all.
He hasn't looked good this year, right?
Yeah.
If we have Jalen shadowing Marvin, you're not going to see him at all. I just don't think that this is not going to happen, right?
No.
Because he doesn't have the speed of Brian Thomas. I know Brian Thomas made Jalen look silly. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But Marvin doesn't have the speed of Brian Thomas Jr.
No, he's more of a Larry Fitzgerald type of receiver, honestly.
Right. And I love Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's going to be a stud.
Yes.
But on this current unit, it's just not working. I don't know if it's the offense. I don't know what it is.
I think it's a chemistry issue between him and Kyler, too. Those two guys don't seem to be on the same page a lot of the time.
And I've never been a Kyler fan. In fact, I don't know many people who hate Kyler more than I do. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I didn't think he was a good quarterback coming out.
Okay.
I think that he is a lot of hype and never delivers. And it's taking an extremely long time for anybody to kind of recognize that, and especially in the Arizona organization, to be honest. But I think it's James Conner. That's the answer. Because we have a guy who can match up with Harrison. We have two... Jordan Brooks especially can match up with Trey McBride. And McBride's going to eat, but I think Brooks can limit it, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a guy that matches up with James Conner. We need potentially David Long to really step up in this game and look better than he's looked so far. And one of the big notes I made, it was one of the first notes I made when we faced Indianapolis, is that our linebackers really struggled to fill the gaps. If you struggle to fill the gaps against Arizona, they don't need Kyler Murray.
No, they don't need Marvin Harrison.
They don't need anybody but James Conner, who's going to get you 12, 13, 14 yards a clip, and they'll run out the time. They'll score 17 points or something, and you'll get nothing because they'll have the ball for 45 minutes. Right?
Yeah.
So James Conner is the X factor. And if we can't stop him, we might as well go home.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, like I said, going into this game, that was the one matchup that actually really scares me because, the Dolphins defense has been good. And I've gone on record many, many times on the show and saying that they are not the reason the Dolphins are losing football games right now. But if there's one Achilles heel, it's that their rush defense can be...
Shred it, dude.
Yeah.
Shred it.
Can be a little leaky at times. The Indianapolis Colts.
Tank Bigsby in week 1, right? James Cook in week 2.
Yep.
Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears in week 3. I could go on and on.
Zach Charbonnet.
In week 4 just destroyed us.
Yeah. So, they can be leaky. And if you let James Conner run wild on you like you let Zach Charbonnet run wild on you, this is going to be a long afternoon for the Miami Dolphins. And Tua, he's not going to get many chances to get hurt because he's just going to be on the sidelines the entire afternoon. Because what the Cardinals want to do is they want to run this ball 45, 50 times. They want to run it down the Dolphins' throat. They want Kyler Murray to throw 15 passes. If the Dolphins let them do that, this is going to be a long, long afternoon.
One thing I found is that teams typically always do exactly the opposite of what I think they're going to do. So now watch them come out and throw the ball 40 times. I think it's just I think they're playing chess at too, they're trying to be too tricky on their chessboard, right? Like they are doing self-study and they're saying, well, the Dolphins must be doing self-study and thinking that their run defense is bad and that we're going to run it 40 times. And so they're probably planning to stop us, right? So let's trick them and let's throw it 30 times. Like, I seriously think, like, watching Hard Knocks has made me realize that, like, some of this stuff is just coaches not being good at their job, right? Yeah. Like, we always try to think and give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, they're in the NFL, we're not, right? They must know something we don't. But then you watch these shows and you're like, well, maybe they don't.
Yeah. Well, because I'll tell you, Anthony, like, if I'm the Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator, I'm saying to my offensive line, fire off the ball. Like, offensive linemen, little known fact, it's probably the worst kept secret in football, actually. Offensive linemen would prefer to run block than pass block.
Oh, yeah.
They want to fire off the ball. They want to hit. If I'm the Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator, and I don't even know who that is, their head coach is Jonathan Gann. He's a defensive guy. So, but if I'm their offensive coordinator, I'm going to the offensive line and I'm going to say, you guys get to eat on Sunday because I'm calling a lot of run plays. I'm going to James Conner and I'm saying, rest up, eat your chicken, eat your vegetables because it's going to be a long game. You're getting 30 plus carries in this one. Because we've talked about the Dolphins secondary. We've talked about Jalen Ramsey, Kendall Fuller. We talked about Kader Kohu. We talked about these guys that are having really nice seasons in the Dolphins secondary. We even talked about Jordan Brooks, who's having a nice season for the Dolphins. Yeah. Javon Holland will probably be back for this game. There's an Achilles heel to this Miami Dolphins defense, and it's their defensive line. It's their smallish linebackers. Mm-hmm. Man, they're going. It is coaching malpractice if James Conner doesn't get 25 carries in this game.
Oh, yeah. Easy. If you have him in fantasy, you better be spinning him up, boys.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
good.
Keith, looking at the stats here, I pulled some stats, not like anything super deep, just the basic stuff they give you on NFL.com, right? The Cardinals score 21 points a game, middle of the pack. Yep. Our defense gives up 21 points a game, also middle of the pack. So it's a virtual guarantee that the Cardinals are going to score 21 points. Do you think that our offense can score at least 24 points?
Well, I mean, are we getting into the score prediction segment of this show? Because I'll tell you right now.
But like I just had like 3 questions written down, and this was the second one. James Conner was the first one.
All right, so you know what? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to leave it at that because I'm going to leave my score prediction for the end of this segment.
Yeah. So that's kind of like I kind of wrote mine, and I know we didn't talk about this. I kind of wrote mine this week in terms of, instead of head-to-head matchups, I wrote it in like burning questions. Like, because we haven't seen Tua since week 1. I don't know what matchups to look at because I don't know what shape anybody's going to be in really, outside of the James Conner matchup against our defense, right?
Well, I think for one thing, as far as the offense goes, and you asked this question, so I'm going to try and give you a thought-out answer here. I think you're going to see Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You're going to see them re-engage. Yeah. They haven't been engaged. You know, you've seen them out there blocking, and they haven't quit on the team or anything. But like, you know, we touched on it earlier, Anthony. Like, you know, Tyreek Hill's running a route 40 yards down the field, knowing that Tyler Huntley's incapable of throwing the ball 40 yards down the field. Mm-hmm. With any sort of accuracy, I should say. He's ever shot Tyreek on a few of those long plays, but I think we're going to see Tyreek. We're going to see Jalen Waddle. They're going to re-engage. We're
One
going to
thing I'm
see.
really fearful of in that re-engage comment is that we're going to go back to throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage 65 times.
Well, I mean, so I don't. I mean, it's possible. It's possible we're going to do that just to get those guys back in the game. But the book's out on the Miami Dolphins. They want to throw the ball down the field.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just start bombing it. You can't just start throwing YOLO balls 30 yards down the field. They're going to have to kind of warm it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Warm the offense up, put a little Barry White on the radio and just warm them up.
It's just play calling, right? Like I'm watching. We all watch a lot of football. All four of us are on football Sundays. It's just the couch has a hole in it because we're sitting there so long.
Oh yeah,
Like the screen passes still work. I'm watching other teams do them. They're successful.
yes,
It's the play calling. It's setting up
yeah,
the screen. It's not throwing 12 screens in a row. You're not
yeah,
setting anything up at that point. And one of my fears here is that he's not going to run the ball. He's going to be like a kid on Madden. He's got his quarterback back. He's got his two receivers back. And Mikey's just going to be like, let's go, boys. We're throwing it 60 times. Where I think the strength of this team and the strength of this offensive line even
yeah,
is running the ball. Like our offensive line never looks better than when they're running that ball.
absolutely,
The
absolutely.
zone, like these five guys are built for the zone blocking scheme. Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Even
and
Julian Hill looks good doing it. And it's hard to make him look good.
You mentioned Mr. Unmentionable.
But that's my fear.
Yeah.
To go back to it, my fear is that we coach gets too excited to have everybody back in the locker room, to have everybody back on the field, and he strays away from what I think our strength is, which is these three-headed monster at running back with Mostert and Achane and Wright, Jalen Wright.
And Ingold paving the way.
Ingold paving the way.
And Durham Smythe, and yes, even Julian Hill. I acknowledge that he's a decent blocker. I do acknowledge that, but if I have to hear one more Julian Hill penalty,
By the way, fun fact to throw in here, and completely random, but I just remembered it, and I won't remember it much longer because my brain works like a goldfish, is Aaron Brewer is the best center in football right now, statistically.
Really?
How about that?
How about them apples?
How about that?
Do you like apples? How about them apples?